Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, people of all ages, welcome back to the Sticky Floors podcast. I am one of your hosts, CJ. I am joined by Mr. Will. If you're listening to this today, it's June 19th in America. It's Juneteenth. That's why me and Mr. Will are wearing black today because we blackety black and it's a black holiday. And that sounds funny to give it a black holiday. It's a black holiday, and so we're getting together today. We're doing American Fiction, which is a good pick for today. I'm looking forward to us talking about it. Mr. Will, how you doing this evening?
Doing real well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Now, Mr. Will, what the audience may not know about you is that you are, in addition to being one of the foremost experts on Star Wars, you are also a historian.
A little
And
bit.
I know that you have a lot of historical knowledge on a day like Juneteenth. Maybe you could just say a couple of quick words about what exactly the holiday is about for those people who may not be as familiar with it, and not like the dissertation level of what you normally would provide us with, but the bullet points version.
Well, first and foremost, I'm just lucky to be alive right now, and I'm grateful for that, for the sacrifices that our ancestors have set forth. Um,
Absolutely.
so this day wouldn't even exist without that. The enduring spirit, both mentally, physically, emotionally, that people throughout the African diaspora have had to endure in such dramatic fashion. I mean, you
Mhm.
think of it, we've had to overcome it. So shout out to everyone with melanated skin, um, first and foremost. Um, but a crude way of explaining this joint is, look, word of mouth. There was no internet, there was no telephone, nothing like
Right.
that. You know what I mean? So, you're talking about during the Civil War period. So that's roughly about 1863 to 1865. You know, the skirmishes, battles, wars are ending throughout the continental United States till it eventually gets to Galveston, Texas. People out there are still either indentured servants and or slaves, or just outright murdered, beaten, raped for just existing, even if they aren't slaves, even if they are freed people. Word finally gets to them from the Union soldiers who are traveling through those towns, where they announce, Abraham Lincoln has proclaimed freedom for enslaved people. There's even new amendments, three to be specific, and in turn, the people rejoice. They established this tradition that we practice today, where there's gallantry, such as parades,
Hmm.
endless supplies of food.
He said, "Listen, Flies."
I mean, because you know how we do.
Yeah, you gotta have food. Got to
Yeah,
be
you
a
gotta
plate.
have
A plate
food.
is always involved.
Yeah, man. And people are just enjoying themselves. With this newfound thing that we call freedom, which is kind of ironic in itself. But
Yes. Yeah.
um,
Kind of. Yeah. I used to work with a lady. Her tag on her email would always say she would always picture that said like kind of free. Like that's kind of freedom, right? And that's
yeah,
and thank you first. Thank you for that.
yeah.
For that, I know I put you on the spot because I didn't tell you
Nah,
that I was going to ask you to do
that's all
that, but
good.
I trusted your ability to provide a cogent explanation on that. So yeah, we're about to jump into American Fiction, man, and this is something that's a movie we've talked about for a while, wanting to do. It's the perfect movie to do for today. I'm gonna kick it back over to you again to drop the synopsis on us, and then let's dive into this.
Yo, and this, much props to CJ for recommending this joint, because I hadn't seen this in the movie theater,
Mm,
and it wasn't until CJ was like, "Nah, you know what? You should peep this one time," and I'm very grateful that he did, because it really came in handy right now. I mean, just from a personal, like, man, let's get back in touch with some of the things we like. We've been on some shoot 'em up, bang bang for a minute.
yeah, right, 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 right.
But we got to diversify our portfolio and really get in touch
Absolutely,
with
absolutely, man.
that which we hold near and dear as well. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So when Princeton literature professor Thelonious Monk Ellison, played by Jeffrey Wright, realizes the publishing world only salivates over black trauma porn, he
Mm,
pulls off a brilliant bait and switch. He pens a crude, cliche filled, quote unquote, hood lit novel under the alter ego Stag R. Lee.
hmm.
Yeah, peep that for those that don't know.
Yep.
Ironically, my prophology, spelled with an F and not a PH,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
again, brilliant, becomes a runaway hit, earning Monk fame, a movie deal, and a seat on the literary prize jury. all the while mocking the very stereotypes it peddles. The result? A razor-sharp satire skewering on an industry that profits from factory-issued versions of black pain. All of this unfolds with unpropitious flair, and Wright's dry, growling intensity leading the charge.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a film we've been talking about this film for a while
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to do it.
Yeah.
It's really very much like in like reminiscent of Hollywood Shuffle.
Yeah.
I think it's very much like
Same
that's
vein.
like it's like the great grandson of
Yeah.
Hollywood Shuffle.
Yep.
And when I saw this, I saw it in the theaters, and this film actually had a little bit of Best Picture buzz
Mm-hmm.
in 2024. It didn't, of course, it didn't win, but it had the buzz. And part of that is it's a very well made film. And this is the first time I think that we've had a chance to really talk about Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Wright is to me an actor's actor.
I knew it. I was about to say the same thing.
He's an actor's actor. He's just part of why this movie to me works so well is because all the characters interplay with him so well.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jeffrey Wright is just really good at balancing kind of being a jerk, but also having humility and also being sharp and witty and also being funny. I mean, it's a master class in acting that he delivers here.
You know what's so hard for me to even understand? This used to be Peoples from Shaft. I don't know how he goes from that
right.
His range is
the range. Yes.
Crazy.
Yes.
I was like, wait, in my mind, I'm replaying different characters that he's played, whether it be where he says, what was the joke he said? I Peoples, I fear the nut, like his accent, everything, all the way to like he's the American, liaison attaché in James Bond for the longest.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there like, wow, this dude, he could do everything.
Very skilled.
Everything.
Very skilled actor.
And like you said, CJ, if it wasn't for the fact of him being the polarizing figure that he is, Sterling Brown doesn't shine as bright as he does.
Mm-hmm.
Issa Rae doesn't shine. Even
Tracey Ellis Ross,
even though she's even, and that's the great. We'll get to that later, but
yeah, we will. Yeah.
All these individuals on their own carry a certain gravitas and are able to carry certain narratives. But he, man, he's like the steroid for them, like the battery in the back, the adrenaline, whatever you want to call it. He's the reason, the catalyst for everything that they do.
Yeah, and I mean it's a very smart film based on a book, and so that helps with some of the dialogue. I'm very into the dialogue in films. So I love like when things are just written well, and I think that really facilitates the screenplay. And ironically, it ends up being like a meta story because it's a movie. It becomes a movie based on a book, based on a story.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can follow along with that, it makes sense sort of at the end, because at the end you realize the story that Monk is telling is the story that's in the book, and it's the story that becomes the movie. So it's really and in every level, it's sort of telling the same story about why do we as a society, and I would say even like as Black people, we're also guilty of this. I know the broader society does it, but we are kind of addicted to this idea of Black trauma.
Mm-hmm.
You said like the Black trauma porn thing. Even the way this movie ends, the movie ends with him having to have to get shot by the police in the movie story, in order for it to close the loop, as the director says he needs it to do.
And the crazy thing is, like that, I at the end I couldn't tell like there's an alternate version or not, because like you think he gets shot in the gala presentation award show, whatever have you, and then all of a sudden you see him on the set of the movie, and his brother rolls up and everything, and they're giving him like, all right, here's a critique on this. You got to kill him off, and it's like, do we have to die and everything, man?
Yes, that's actually exactly.
And
I
keep playing this whole scene in my head where I'm like, all right, there is the white man complex trope in which he saves everything a la Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the sacrificial lamb crucifixion, Black man version where he dies for the sins of others. And then in between that is, and rest in power to him, Michael Clark Duncan, Big Mile, the Black
the
magic
Green Mile.
person,
Yeah.
Where even the story of Bagger Vance, Will Smith, where like this black person has these magical powers and he's kind of like a genie, if you will, and he gives the insight and he's able to do these things, but he too somehow becomes a sacrificial lamb. And I don't know what it is with this fascination of doing that in Hollywood circles. I don't know. I'm still bamboozled by it.
It's a hard thing to explain, and I think like that. There's that term like black. Well, it's actually said black girl magic, but
Mhm.
I think it extends to black people in general. It's like sometimes I think we're put on a pedestal where like one of us becomes like both the exception, and in that exceptionalism we become almost like not qualified to be normal. And I think like once you get to that point, then the sacrifice happens, because you can't be a normal person, you have to be like a godsend in some way, and as the godsend now you have to face some sort of sacrifice or public execution, in order to balance everything out. And like we also, I think we tell the history of some of our greatest heroes in ways like that. Like that mirrors the story that's largely told about a Dr. King, like, oh, you're this exceptional black person who's able to galvanize all these people and galvanize the world. And then because of that, you become the sacrifice. And now all of these racial progresses happen from that point. That's a very simplified way of looking at the legacy of Dr. King. And it's wrote with a lot of problems associated with it too, but that repeats itself in real life, and then it repeats itself in fiction too.
It's funny you should say that too, man, because I don't know what it is. Most Def has, and I'm going to obviously have to paraphrase, but he says, we're either kings and
Yeah,
the women are either queens or,
Black Star. Yep, yep.
and, and to nail home your point even more, you know, this thing about, Monk's life, his father's a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
mother's a professional,
Yep.
sister's a doctor. Isn't his brother an attorney or
Plastic
something? A
surgeon.
plastic surgeon,
Plastic
yeah,
surgeon.
plastic
Right.
surgeon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Also a doctor. They're all
yeah,
doctors. Yeah.
and then he is the so-called black sheep of the family. I'm using that intentionally. And he's a literary professor.
Yeah. Yeah. A
That's not
doctor, but not like that.
like, and,
Yeah.
and that's not normal. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's not the norm. Most
Yeah.
people, I don't care whose family you're talking about. Most
Yeah.
family don't have that type of pedigree within their household, especially their
Yeah.
immediate circle.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the parts of the film that I really love. I mean, this film, it's good as the satire
Mm,
of like, what is the black image like, and
yeah.
how does the literary world and the Hollywood world want to see it and what sells. But the other part is like this great black family drama.
Mm.
And what happens when on the surface everybody seems to be successful, whatever
Mm-hmm.
that means,
Yeah, they look good
but
on
yet
paper.
there's but yet they're still wrestling with all of the same family
Mm-hmm.
dynamics that all of us in families experience. Like you can have three family members, like all three kids don't have the same relationship with their parents, and they don't have the same relationship with each other. And one of the things I really love about this film is there's so much honesty in the conversations between Monk and Lisa and Monk and Cliff. And it's like they're just so honest with each other, because I think they all experienced a lack of honesty in their parents' relationship with each other, and their father cheating on their mom and whether or not their mom knew. It's just, but those are like real things that happens in families. People go through that. And I think the movie did it in a very respectful way that also feels real for the characters, the way that they're set up.
Oh yeah, the authenticity just oozes out of this film, and it's a perfect comparison contrast to what's going on today when you juxtapose the younger
Absolutely.
generation and their mentality as to how things should be, whether they dibble and dabble in just outright chaos and debauchery, to them being their idealized versions of themselves, where they think that this is a paradise, or it can be a paradise, and
Hmm.
somehow, some way, there has to be a meeting of the minds where there's a perfect balance. What I mean by that is, here Cliff he's diving into the pool and he's just doing his thing, like
Yeah.
he's all out there and he's philandering. He's
Yes.
first he has this heterosexual marriage that
Hmm.
supposedly is a fraud, and his wife is
Yep.
only a beard, but he has these kids, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden now he's taking on homosexual lovers left and
Yep.
right, and he has no regard for their feelings as, or even just self-value for himself.
Yes. Yeah.
And yet at the same time, here you have Monk, who is uh, pretty much been a loner all his life. He has no
Mm-hmm.
real family, if you will, in the sense other than his siblings and his parents. But I mean, like as far as like a community that
Yeah.
he's widely respected in, that's a fraud. You know, like they know that he's smart, he's intelligent, but they don't really feel connected.
Right.
He's on the outskirts. That's why they give him the sabbatical. That's the reason why he's even in the position anyway. And then yet at the same time, he has this love interest, and even that he's like trying to navigate these
Messed that
choppy
up. Yeah,
waters.
he
And
messed that money up, man.
yeah,
He
it's
messed
like
it up.
it's like, dude, what are you doing? And then of
Yeah.
course, last but not least, you know, you have Tracey Ross's character
Lisa,
who
yeah.
you know, she seems to have it all together. Like she has the insight, the intuitiveness, the ability to be diplomatic and try and assuage what's going on. But then, you know, lo and behold, she gets something out of left field that she would have never expected. So how does she bounce back from that while she's trying to figure it out? Boom.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and the thing about it is I think you may not have a Monk in your family, you may not have a Cliff in your family, you may not have a Lisa, but you know people like that.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. Like they are very three-dimensional
Mm-hmm.
characters. And the casting of Jeffrey Wright and Tracey Ellis Ross and Sterling K. Brown in this film as the siblings is perfect. Because even in the, like even with everything Cliff is going through, that scene at the end, man, where he's talking to Monk and he's saying about how he wishes that dad would have known that I'm gay. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, and Monk is like, well, you know, he probably wouldn't have liked you. He's like, yeah, but at least he would have not liked the real me.
Mm-hmm.
Dog, that's heavy. That's deep, man. That's a deep. It's just a deep conversation about really being accepted for who you are, and in a way, that aspect of the story is like the reflection of the broader allegory of can we as Black people really be accepted fully as we are for all the things that we have to offer, right? Because you know, there's a part of Stagger Lee that is Monk, and there's a part of Monk that is Stagger Lee, but it's like he can either be one or the other. But he doesn't have the ability to be both or to be successful really as both.
That was so brilliant. Can we be accepted? You know, but that's the crazy thing too. You know what I mean? Like there are other cultures, other demographics that can be mediocre, and it's okay. It's
Hmm.
okay. I don't know what normal is. I don't know what perfection is,
Right.
but they can be mediocre. And what I mean by that is they can have successes, they can have highs, and they can have lows and failures, and still be able to come back to whatever their median is, whatever
Hmm.
their new normal may be for them after going through some type of chaos, and be accepted. Like, all right, it happens. You're human.
Yeah.
I don't know. This may sound controversial. This is not my hot take, but I don't know if Black people are afforded that same grace in society as a whole. Yet everything is mimicked. So what I mean by that is in this movie here, you know, you're talking about a father where they have the little cameo joint where the father ends up getting shot while they're in that little crummy
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
apartment or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I love that scene. I love how they did that. Yeah.
where so many stereotypes, but people are like, I see the humanity in him and the struggle
Yeah.
within, and I'm sitting there like, he could have had that just by saying, "Yo, Dad, how was your day at work today? Man, I had a hard meeting
Yeah.
trying to close the client, and I get home, I'm stuck in traffic." Like most people can relate to these things. It's just a
Yeah.
regular dude. But somehow, some way, there's got to be some extreme version of like, you shot your dad, you're a
Yeah.
criminal, you're on the run, you stealing
Right.
money. Like
Right. Yeah.
that's not necessary.
It's funny. It reminds me. I remember when reality television first got like really big. It was starting to get big because it's probably the biggest it is now. But I always remember my dad always saying like, "Okay, if reality TV is going to be out here, why don't they tell the story of like the reality of somebody trying to become a Black doctor?" Right? And I used to always remember him saying that. And it's like you could get a lot of the stories of perseverance and the stories of overcoming barriers and stress without those stress and drama being my mama was on drugs, my dad was in jail, you know, my brother was in a gang. Like these stories that yes, these are people's real lives, right? And so you don't want to minimize that, but that's also not everybody's experience. And just because you didn't experience it, that doesn't mean your life is a bowl of cherries, right?
Yeah.
Which is part of what the movie is trying to get you to is like, yeah, on the surface, these characters in this world they live in, and yeah, they got a beach house, and yeah, they got a regular house, and yeah, they have a maid and all this kind of stuff, but they also still have the same insecurities and the same problems and the same financial issues and the same relationship issues that anyone else could have.
It's funny you say that too, because I've witnessed people close to me, very close to me, where they've had a maid. I'm like, how do you afford a maid? I know what you make. Like, but that's a part of their culture. And come
Yeah,
to find out,
yeah,
the
yeah.
housekeeper is basically like family, because they've
Right.
known them for
And
such a
oh
prolonged
man.
period. And
Yep.
so they work behind the scenes to do other things. They may not be able to compensate them financially to that degree, but
Yep.
just the same way as when Monk gives her away to that
Oh
law,
yeah.
you know what I
Oh,
mean? Like,
Lorraine. I
yeah,
love Lorraine. Yeah, Lorraine. Oh man. Good.
no,
I'm
no.
sorry.
So that's my point, though, where it becomes such an intimate process where it's
Hmm.
bigger than just a transactional. Hey, you clean my house, I pay you for these services, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
To the point where like she was even concerned about, hey, your mom, she might be a little bit, and even the way she tap danced around it, like not directly saying, your mom is just flat out crazy. Like
Yeah.
you could tell that there was love and concern there, where she was
Yeah.
trying to explain like, hey, we need you around more. This is what's going
Yeah.
on. These are the doctor's appointments. She may lose her temperament. Oh, did you know she wears a wig? Like all these things going on, you
Yeah.
know, it kind of humanizes them, but yet still allowing the viewer to identify with certain things that may hit home to them.
Yeah, and the way that Lorraine sort of steps in and plays the mother figure,
Mm,
especially to Monk and Cliff, in a way that they don't really get from their mom,
yeah.
is just man, it's just I mean it's so well done. And once again, I mean I know that's a part of it being based on a book. The book is Erasure for those who want to go out and check it out. Um, that helps the story. It's just such a well laid out, like I said, screenplay, and then the characters and the casting is perfect because
Oh, yeah.
Lorraine is how I think Lorraine should be. And when her and Maynard, like that makes sense.
Yeah.
And even when like Maynard says to Monk at the end, it's always easier to deal with someone else's family than your own. Who doesn't know that? Like that's the truth, right? Like that's one of the true and living comments of all time. Like, yeah, it is. And at the same time, the family is where you get that support and that reinforcement and that acceptance. Because even for Cliff's character, even if Cliff's mother and father never really accepted him being gay, Lisa and Monk do, and they don't judge him for that. Even when he says like when Cliff is saying like, yeah, I'm about to take a lover, and and he's like, does that bother you, Monk? And he's like, no, I'm offended that you said I'm about to take a lover. Because who talks like
Who
that?
talks like that?
Who talks like that? Right. It's like brilliant dialogue, and I just really like how they do the story, man. So let's get into the cake because we can talk about those parts all day, and we're gonna get talk about a little bit more here. Cake wise, what you got, Mr. Will?
Well, going back, two of the things that CJ referenced that I like is one, and in the order he referenced it, um, I don't know. I don't know anybody that hit the nail on the head more poignantly than the police officer. I'm forgetting his name, Lorraine's
Yeah,
soon-to-be
Maynard.
husband,
Maynard,
Maynard,
yeah.
because of the fact that I've heard that before, but it's not until he said it again that I was reminded of it. And
Reminds you of
Guru
it, yeah.
said, "Rest in power." He said it's easier to live someone else's life than it is to live your own.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
and so, then the next part that CJ touched upon is the fact that I'm going to take a lover. This is not Victorian age where you're speaking in all this poetic gibberish.
Right.
So for me, it's the dialogue. The
Dialogue is
screenplay,
wonderful. Yeah.
um, the back and forth, the chemistry, the rapport that these people have is just off the chain. Um, the next thing, obviously, we touched upon early. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the casting, specifically Sterling Brown and Jeffrey Wright. I'm really surprised that they didn't win Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor for
Right.
a plethora of award shows. I mean, the way that they delivered in the movie I think was filmed in 2023, came out in
Mm-hmm.
2024, somewhere in between. Well, I don't care if it's the Sundance joint or whatever. They should have won something. Like
Mm-hmm.
just a plethora of awards that they should have at least cleaned up. I definitely love the fact that like CJ said, the complex group dynamic, family dynamic, the acceptance, tolerance, behavior, the non-acceptance, because there are family members that are like, nah, I don't mess with you. And I
Right.
don't and I don't have to make any apologies for it. I'm not making any excuses for it. I just don't like you, but I
Right.
love you. And that's fine.
Yeah.
There's a difference. These things are not synonyms. And I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people get that twisted as well. Um, I could speak from my own experience, from others, what I've observed, but I definitely love that. And then, just the way that these individuals are depicted, it's very nuanced,
It is.
where,
It really
it's
is.
very specific to what this person's ideology might be versus what this other person's ideology may be.
Yeah.
What is black representation, or what is black culture, as if we're one monolith, or some sentient being that emerges as like
Yes.
some horde. And who can identify? Who's to say, that's what it means to be black? What
Right.
I may associate with may not be CJ's cup of tea, but
Right.
we still can come to a common ground where we respect one another, and that, our ability to just coexist, it's okay. Like, it's perfectly okay. I don't
Yeah.
have to insult him or demean him in order to big myself up, and vice
Mhm.
versa.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because when you said like the "who is black" part, it just brings me back to Ms. Goldfarb in
Mm,
Bamboozled with the
mm,
"who gets to say what's black,"
mm,
like that kind of, and it's like, yeah, but the irony in that situation is it's a white woman making that comment,
mm-hmm.
but we're still wrestling with that in terms of like what does that mean when a certain product is produced for entertainment, and does it really speak to the authentic black experience? Even like for Jeffrey Wright's character in the film, he's like, the dumber I behave, the richer I get, right? Like, why is that a part of what it takes for him to make money as a black man? Because when he was writing literature, right, then nobody was buying it. But then when he writes like the hood lit, then all of a sudden everybody's on it. So
That reminds
it's
me
it's
so, that I
good,
don't mean
man.
to
Good.
cut you off, but that
No, go
just
ahead, man.
reminds me so much of the whole Medea thing, and
Yes.
and and
Yep.
just BET as a whole, and like I wrestle with that, man, because I don't like Tyler Perry. I'll be the first
Okay.
one to say it. Like, I don't like it. For me, it's always the same stereotype: black female
Mm,
who goes through some type of traumatic joint, but she's
mm.
on paper she's with a dude. Typically, it's like Blair Underwood, chiseled jaw type joint. Dude is loaded. He's a doctor. They got 2.5 kids. The dog, picket
Yeah.
fence. They live in a
Yeah.
McMansion.
Yep.
But he's a womanizer. He drinks
Yep.
and he got a mistress. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden, she gets hit one day. She ends up somewhere. Usually, it's at Medea's or some other family member's
It's
joint.
yes.
And usually, it's either Medea is the family member or whatever have you. And then
Mhm.
she meets some dude like what's the light skinned dude with the green eyes?
I know you're thinking about
Um,
with the yeah, I know you're talking about.
yeah,
Yep.
who's in the joint with Kevin Hart and the rest of them? How to Be a
Mhm.
Man Too.
Yeah.
I forget his name, but nonetheless, everybody knows who I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Um, and or the other cat from the hospital show on Channel 7.
Mhm.
Usually, it's light skinned whatever cat.
Jason Williams, I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
his name.
The
Mhm.
former teacher. Either
Mhm.
way, it's got to be a contrast. So now you're dealing with the whole like complexion,
All of those things.
battle thing, and then simultaneously the light skinned dude with the green eyes, he's broke, so he's rich in spirit. He'll send you to God, or he'll be like a prophet, but he can't pay for nothing. And he probably got like 3 kids, a la Idris Elba, where he's struggling to make it work, and he got the terrible ex baby mama, and I hate that term. And so I'm just saying,
Yo,
like you mentioned,
you really have gone in on this. You really have gone in on this one.
it's just that this movie is a nice fresh breath of air that doesn't do those things, that doesn't
Yeah.
fall into those stereotypes,
Yeah.
and yet it still battles what those movies are trying to accomplish, which is,
Yeah.
through heartbreak, through hardship, through pain, people can persevere, and
Yeah.
that evil or shadiness or shystiness comes in all shades, all
Mhm.
complexions, and it's not just, oh, bad guys wear black, good guys wear white, et cetera, et cetera. Like,
Right.
no, there's a little bit of everything, and not everyone is everything. Some people
Yeah.
can have a little mix of this, that, and the third. Whereas Monk, he's a very complex person who is trying to do the right thing by his family, but he's not very good at interconnecting interpersonal skills.
Right. He's
And
not.
people know
Yep.
that. And he knows it. And they accept him for it. And they never asked him to be greater than what he was. They just asked him to be real. And I think
Yeah.
that's what this movie's about.
And he also wrestles with the dynamic of being the older child, the oldest
Mm,
child, and at least Lisa and Cliff being the favored one as well.
yeah.
Right. So he's also got that dynamic. So it's like I said, a lot of family dynamics in there. Cake wise, in addition to all the things you said, because I agree with those. I love the Johnny Walker analogy
Mm,
because it's just so smart about what people think about the red and the black and the blue, and like, just how that the palette of that reflects the palette of our tastes. Like we do a show where we talk about movies, and it's like some of the movies that we've really liked the most, nobody sees. like no one sees them. It's like that's the blue. It's the stuff that like it's good. Like the Amateur was good, nobody watched it.
No.
Like that's a Magazine Dreams was good, nobody watched it. You know what I mean? But a lot of people saw Thunderbolts, and I'm not saying Thunderbolts is bad. But I'm saying Thunderbolts is like black. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like Johnny Walker black, not black, black. Got to clarify because it is Juneteenth, right? So, but I love that. I love that analogy that was there. The other part is that this movie brought back to the screen one of my favorite people to see, Ericka Alexander
Mm.
as Coraline, Max from Living Single, who was
Things.
my favorite in Living Single. I just really liked her character, the nuances of her character as well, also being someone coming off a divorce, trying to figure out how to be in a relationship with somebody like Monk, really shows you kind of like how Monk could be a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like that. I always liked at the end that she didn't come back to him. I like that because it's like, dog, you carried her. Like you talked down to her in her house at her dinner table because you were mad that she bought a book that you wrote, and you're mad because she liked it. And the thing is, the beauty of her character in it is that she liked his other stuff that he wrote. She liked his stuff, and she liked that, which was really showing you the complexity and like the breadth, the width of what people can like when they're like fully kind of in their thing, but he couldn't accept it because he wanted her to be either one or the other. So just love her character. And then the last thing, I love the conversation between him and Issa Rae when it's just the two of them sitting at the table and they're talking about like the book and about books like that. And she drops a line that really made me rethink the word potential when she said, potential is what people see when they think what's in front of them isn't good enough. That's brilliant writing, and it's the line is delivered well, and I just like the way that they wrote both of those characters and the understanding of why they were writing the stories they did and what those stories meant for them. So just that's my cake, man.
Man, when
And
she
it's so much in here, but yeah, that's what I
when,
got.
when she said that, it reminded me of a bunch of old NFL coaches who used to say potential gets you fired.
Yes,
Like
yes,
that joint,
yes,
that really struck home because I was like, yeah, so what happens to potential that isn't fulfilled? You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like guys are dime a dozen. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, oh yeah, you look good and this, that, and the third. And what is the saying? Look like Tarzan, playing like Jane. Well,
That's what they say. Yeah, that's the football. Yeah,
yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
that's football talk for real
yeah,
right there. Yeah, man. So a lot of good, lot of cake in it. Let's go to the hate. We got the same thing.
yeah. No,
So
there's only one thing that I dislike about this movie, and I was unlike our other episodes. I tried to wait to this point to get to it because I really detest this. Why is
mhm.
she even in the movie if they're just gonna do that, man? Like,
Yeah,
I was really like, word, like
yeah,
that's what we doing, and
yeah.
everybody,
Lisa's death is just, oh man, it feels like I lost something in the film when it
yeah,
happens.
everybody knows that I want main characters to live. All right,
Yes, yeah,
and
yeah,
this
yeah.
and this is one of those where I was like, she just got in the film, like it was
Right,
just
and I
getting
liked her.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I was
Yep.
like, I want to hurt. I wanted to stop. First, I wanted to stop watching. Then I wanted to go
Hmm.
hurt the director and the screenwriter because I was like, word, that's what we doing right
That's how
now.
it goes in the book. That's how the
Yeah,
book.
I
The book
get
is
it,
like,
but I
yeah,
was like, word, that's what we doing. Or okay, I'm gonna see you.
yeah.
I'm gonna
And
see
you
you for
tell me
real,
see.
for real, for real. Like, oh, okay,
Yo, I
all
mean,
right.
yes, I agree with you. I just Tracy Ellis Ross playing the character Lisa, the dynamic between her and Monk. I love to see it. And when she gets the heart attack, I the first time I saw it, I didn't think she was gonna die. I thought maybe she'd be
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be
hospitalized or
one more
whatever.
person he had to
But then
take
she's
care of.
dead, right? And then the whole rest of the movie,
They don't even
I'm
talk
saying
about
to
her.
my, I'm saying, well, a little bit. They will do a little bit,
Uh,
but this is what I'm thinking. I'm watching the movie and I'm thinking, dang, I don't get to see her interact with Cliff.
mm,
Dang, I don't get to see her interact with Coraline.
mm.
Dang, I don't get to see her at Lorraine and Maynard's wedding. And that's real. Like that's real. That's what happens when someone you love dies tragically and unexpectedly. You don't get to see them in those moments. That just made it resonate with me so much. Like, man, I hated it, and I agree with you 1,000%. If there's one thing I could change about this film, I would have wanted to see her character throughout.
Oh yeah, no question. Because I guess the reason why it struck an chord with me is because I found myself in that position where I was like,
Yes.
wow, really?
Yeah.
And like you
It
said,
resonant. The
this
character.
person is
Yeah.
not going to be here. And there's always the saying where it's like, what happens when the person who makes the family events that much more special, or they're the glue to
Mm,
whatever? And then you're left wondering, like, yeah, what happens until you're in that position and you're like, yeah, this is what happens. Someone
yeah.
either steps up and rises to the occasion. So it's a different spin, but the family still goes on. There's still resemblance of what we used to have, and we're building on that. Because
Yeah.
at one point in time, that person who's no longer here filled that same void. So
Yeah.
it's not like this is a new issue. But at the
Yeah.
same token, it's like you can't replace that. Like that right there, whatever that was for your family or your group, that's gone. Like Old Dirty, the Woo's talking about this reunion joint.
Right. Right.
Yo,
It doesn't feel the same without ODB,
I went
man.
to
It
the
doesn't.
last joint that they had, and Dirty didn't go, and it rained real hard, and he was gone that same day. Like an hour later, when they closed the show, that's when the word came out, like, oh, da, 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 and he
Mm,
passed away. That's how I felt, just like
yeah.
that. That same night, I felt that watching that movie. I was like,
Yeah.
same thing with Sean Price. I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, or Prodigy. I felt I don't even I've met these dudes, but I felt like it was a family member, and that's how I felt. That's how I felt with Tracey Ross. I was like,
I I got
oh,
it.
oh.
I know it hurt. I know it hurt because because she was so good, and like I said, you just missed the character.
Yeah,
Like the characters, and for her to not even be in it that long, she just
yo,
had such a great impact on. Yeah, I mean, but that's a credit to her acting. It's
yeah,
a credit to the writing, and it's a credit to just how all those characters interplay with each other. They fit
hmm,
together so well that it feels like, yeah, that's like people I know, maybe people in your family that you know.
yeah,
So, anyways, so that's that, man. Let's move on to the questions, man. I know you got a couple questions for me.
yeah,
Hit
just a
me with
few.
those,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
I got some for you as well.
All right, so let's go with the first joint. What role does authenticity play in the film's story, and how does the film challenge its definition?
Yeah, so the authenticity part, that's like the crux of I think the argument between Issa Rae's character and Jeffrey Wright's character, because Jeffrey Wright basically his my pathology, which
Mm,
is rename the F word, is like it is him writing what he thinks people want to see from Black people,
hmm,
which is not the story that Issa Rae is writing, which her story is, this is the story of the people that I actually talk to.
hmm,
And it happens that their real life story is entertaining to people, which is a big, it's like a difference with distinction. And the authentic part is the authenticity has to be, what is the intention behind it? So if the intention is to highlight, then that's different than to make fun of.
Dave
And
Chappelle.
his right, exactly. Dog, you just all right. We done. I don't have to say nothing else because that's the crux of what Dave Chappelle was trying to get
Hmm.
across, right? Like, I'm not making fun of us by doing this, but if you think that's what it is, and if it gets this far off track, then we can't do it anymore.
Hmm.
Y'all messed the money up.
Yeah, because he felt like the laughs were too hard,
Yeah,
and
and
that
yeah,
that you touched upon right there, where you mentioned like, hey, if you're doing it to highlight what goes on, then
that's
that's
different.
different.
Yeah,
And
good stuff. Good stuff. Good question.
um, what does the film suggest about the burden of representation on Black artists? Can one person represent a culture or race, and should they be expected to?
Yeah, you shouldn't be, and the burden I think of the creation is like, we say, you love music, right?
Hmm. Ah,
There's on one side for Black artists, there's the idea that going mainstream is a negative, but going mainstream is also where all the money is, right? So it's like, and I know there's some people, like, they sound like Wu-Tang selling stuff out of their trunk, they made money, but like getting to the deal, getting to the distribution, getting to the big screen, that's usually what people want. And I get it, because you want your creation to be seen by as many people as possible.
you know
But in
that
the
that's
but in
crazy
the
that you should say that. Touch upon that. You got to expand upon that, man.
because it's like, because I think it's something that you go through. I think whatever you create, part of I think the creation process is, I'm creating this thing. This thing is coming from me, and I want to share it with the world,
Mm.
right? you don't want to limit what the world means, because the world can be much bigger than that, right? And you don't know who your story is going to resonate with. We're watching this, like this movie, American Fiction. Yes, all black cast. I guarantee you, you don't have to be black to like this film. That story is resonates with the world because
Yes.
everybody has those dynamics, right?
Mm.
So it's not like, yeah, it's a black film, but that doesn't mean only black people can enjoy it, right? We did Sinners a couple weeks ago. Like Sinners is for everybody. You know, some people, you might get it a little bit differently if you're from that particular cultural background, but Ryan Coogler didn't make that and say, yo, I don't want anybody who's not black to show up there. You couldn't get them numbers if that's all that happened, right? So
Ah.
it's like to get back to your question, yeah, it's tricky because you do want your art to be seen by as many people as possible.
Mm.
But you also have to balance that with not losing the authenticity of the base that you're making it for.
You
Like
know,
we make that, like we make the show for people who love
I was just
movies, right?
about
Right? We try to make it for some people who love movies, right? And some of these movies, some of the movies we talk about, people like. Some of the people we don't like, but we're making it for people who like movies, right? Maybe American Fiction isn't your cup of tea. It's cool. We'll do Fantastic Four next month. You know, so that's fine. We got something else for you if you don't want to buy that. But yeah, I mean that's where it goes.
Oh man, that was so dope, man. Yo, we are in sync with it. Oh man, because I didn't even have to say a word. CJ already knew where I was going. All
Yeah,
right, but my next question is satire enough to change a system that profits from the very thing it mocks?
yeah, it's tricky, right? Because this is in a thread of movies that have done this, right? We
Mm-hmm.
talked about Hollywood Shuffle, we talked about Bamboozled, we're talking about this. They've all had this satirical approach to talking about the box that black creators feel like they're in to tell authentic black stories, and who gets to decide, and what happens when what's an authentic black story becomes defined by people that aren't black, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is right in that mix of all those things. I think the satire is more for the I hate to say like educated person, but it's like the educated person's way of trying to attack a system. So it's like you can make fun of something and people get that, but is it changing anything? No. It hasn't, man. You can say it's gotten worse. You can say it's
Oh,
gotten worse because now I would say that now that everybody has a cell phone and the ability to create their own content, we stereotype each other, like ourselves and each other, at a rate unseen in history to this point.
you know, that's funny you should say that because there is an absence of gatekeepers. Now, for every
Hmm.
Jeffrey Weinstein, you did have someone who was a little bit more intentional and responsible with their with their stewardship. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, you know, anybody else, everybody now can get on and start singing. There's no cultivation of talent. There's no Barry Gordy. There's no one that says, all right, you got to do this, 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 and this. There's a marketing, a promotional. There's a dance
Yeah.
choreographer. There's a vocal coach. There's an editor, audio. Like none of this. Like it's just straight.
Development. There's
None.
not the
There's
development
no
that there used to
A&R
be.
anymore. And
Yeah.
at the same token, you know, EPMD came out with this joint where they would call it the crossover, where they would talk literally ridiculing
Great song. Yeah. That's
everybody who's
yes.
going pop. And then at the same token, though, this has been the struggle ever since music has been recorded, which is you want the fame, you want the accolades, you want the money and everything that comes with it. And then with that is another sense of responsibility where you become detached from that very thing that kept you grounded and connected to the folk, which was
Yeah.
unfortunately the grittiness or what goes along with it, the poverty or the lack thereof of the means to do those things because you're at the grassroots level. So it's
Yeah.
like that battle of trying to navigate not only those choppy waters, but also of losing your essence or your soul, hence the word soul music, of
Yeah.
why, you know, what enticed the people to gravitate towards you anyway.
And the other part of it is you as the artist also have the ability to evolve as well.
Mm.
Like you don't have to remain the 19-year-old from the Queensbridge projects. Like you can become the guy who invested in Coinbase
Nas.
and still be a good rapper, right? Yeah, shout outs to Nas,
Nasir
right? Like
Ben Allah.
you could do that, but it's like sometimes as consumers of a product, we think that it's only real if you're doing the 19-year-old from the Queensbridge Project rap. I don't want to hear that at this age, to be honest with you, right? Like I also want, my favorite artists to evolve. And I think sometimes, we like as a community of consumers, regardless of race, sometimes we get trapped into thinking it's only real, it's only good if it sounded like it did 10, 15 years ago. That's not real, man.
Preach.
It's true. Look, man, wait till like 5 years from now when this show we got like laser beams coming and highlights and little robot Charles and robot Mr. Will jumping up there talking. It's gonna be much different, man.
Oh, oh man, let's get to your questions, yo.
All right, so I got 4 ones for you. So first of all right, so Stag R. Lee, which is a crazy name. Is Stag R. Lee, I keep saying it like that, the shadow of of Monk? And what I mean by that, like how people say, like, that's just shadow and you gotta do your shadow work and all that. Is that what it is? Is that really what that character represents? Or that character?
I get the analogy that's attempted to be utilized, but I would go more with the like two-face split personality joint. And what I mean by
Mm.
that is he is two halves of the same whole. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you ever have that voice inside of you that talks to you? Now, I'm not saying
Yeah.
you talk back, whatever have you. Call it your
Yeah.
conscience, your spirit,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Your better side. But typically, there's that thing that says, "All right, don't do that, yo. You know your limit. Don't
Mm-hmm.
don't do that. And then
Mm-hmm.
other times, you just be like, you know what, yo, hit me one more time. You know what I mean? And you just indulge in that aspect.
Whatever that thing is,
It
yeah.
is,
Yeah,
and
we've all been there. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's what it is for him. I think that's the reason why he doesn't know how to interact with real life people. I think it's because
Mm.
sometimes he has that guilt and that shame that he likes being able to indulge in the
Ah, I like
superficial
that. I like
stuff.
that take. I
And
like that take.
I
Yeah.
think that he's been so much, in this cultivated space that sometimes he doesn't want to be on 100. You know what I mean? He wants to dial it down a little bit, and maybe
Yeah.
he wants to eat some pig's feet instead of eating the cordon bleu. You know what I mean? Like he don't want he doesn't want to have the rosé. He wants some yak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And look, and that's the thing. Like you have to you that if that's the fullness of who you are, then
mm-hmm,
enjoy that. And that's not for everybody. Some
no,
people they only want to eat the cordon bleu, and that's fine.
mm-hmm,
Some people want to eat the pig feet. I'm not one of those people, but if you are, that's great too. I get that. So yeah, I
mm-hmm,
dig that. Good, cool stuff. All right, continuing with Jeffrey Wright, man. All right. So let's say you get to cast Jeffrey Wright in a role in the MCU,
mm-hmm.
right? And it doesn't have to be a new role; it could be an existing role. So I'm gonna give you some width here.
All right.
Where would you cast Jeffrey Wright in the MCU?
You know,
Because he should be in there.
oh
Because
no, no question.
he's if there's a lot of act, so get this man in this somehow. Because I want to see him fight somebody or wear a suit with some muscles on it.
And that's been a hard thing for me to like really be like, man, who could he be? Like, who
Mm-hmm.
could he really be? And I think that he's already cast perfectly as the Watcher. I really think
You know
that
what?
he
You're
should
right.
be Utah. Like, I think
You're right.
like
Yep.
where he's
Yeah.
at is who he should be. An observer,
Great
but at
call.
the same time able to, just like he does in this movie, just like Monk does in this movie, be able to say, you know what? I'm going to be a participant too. I am of the world. I have feelings. I
Mm-hmm.
have emotions. I'm going to partake. Enough is enough. I'm not going to be a bystander anymore. Good or bad,
Yeah.
indifferent. I'm going to do it.
Great call. Great reference point. I forgot all about that, but you're right. That's exactly who we should be. Good point. All right, cool. All right. Next thing, yo, shout out to Living Single, man. I
Oh
told you
yeah,
that I
yeah.
told you that Max is my favorite. Who was your favorite female character on Living Single, man?
Man, this was tough, man. Real tough. Because I like Tootie. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yo, Kim
I
Fields,
like
man.
Kim
Yo, come
Fields.
on, man.
Yeah,
Kim Fields is like everybody's favorite. Oh,
yeah.
I'm cutting off. Go ahead.
No. I grew up with her. She reminds me of an aunt.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
Regine on Living
yeah, I
Single.
was
Yeah.
going with Regine for a minute, but I like Queen Latifah's character. You know what I mean? I,
Yes.
I really do. I think she's underrated in that role. And I think actually it's that role that I'm more in tune with than anything
Mm-hmm.
that she's ever done. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care if it's Set It Off as Cleo or
Yeah.
the joint with Common or where he's a basketball player and she falls
Yeah,
in love
yeah,
with
yeah,
him.
yeah. I know what
Now,
you're talking about.
I don't
Yep,
care
yep.
about. I think it's more about in Living Singles, and the
Yeah,
reason being is she's an entrepreneur.
yep.
She's so it shows that she has a business mind. She's astute, very keen as far as
Mm-hmm.
like understanding what it takes as far as managing different personalities and such. And yet
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously, she's still able to reconnect with her homegirls and live with them. And it's not because of finances like it was in the beginning. Now it's more like, this is my family. These
Yeah.
are the people I grew up with. And it's not your nuclear traditional sense, but you know what? They're of the same age. They're going through it. And it kind of reminded me of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like our circle of like that period in time when we were coming up, and like cats either have roommates or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
living with each other. Yeah,
yeah, you know,
absolutely.
it just
Yeah.
reminded me of that brotherhood. You know what I mean? Except, you know, sisters, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And she was running a hip hop magazine.
that's
Which
what I'm saying. The
know,
business joint, man.
I know that
Yeah,
worked for
then
you.
that
Yeah.
worked for me on so many levels. That's why I was like, yeah, I'm going with the queen, y'all.
No doubt. No doubt. All right. Last question. From the movie. So
Yeah.
do you think Monk and Coraline
No.
eventually get back together?
Mm-mm. And that's
Yeah, I don't think
okay.
so either. I
And
don't think
that's
so either. Yeah.
okay. You know
It
what?
is.
Because
It
I ain't
is.
gonna lie to you, man. I like you. I was brought up on that whole like, baby, give me one more chance. You know, we destined to be. You know, I'm fighting for my woman, and I get her back
Mm-hmm.
happily ever after in the movie joint. But this is one of those rare movies, which is kind of the reason why I liked what you call it, Days of Summer.
500 Days of
Days of
Summer.
Summer
Yes.
is because, like, you know what? It doesn't always work out like that, man,
It doesn't.
and
And
that's
that's real
okay.
life too.
And there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason why you're not together. And your person may be someone else, and this just helps you get there,
Yep.
whether faster or slower, but it helps you get to wherever you need to be. And I think for him, it made him realize, like, yo, you got to fine tune some things. You got some work to do too. You
Yeah.
can't
He's
be
got
over
some
here.
goals.
Yeah, you know, you can't be over here thinking that you God's gift to the world, man. Like, you got to humble yourself. You got to, you know, be more engaged. And there's another set of people that need you. You
Yeah.
know what? So, yeah, she don't need you.
Yeah.
It was nice to have you around, but it's gotta be mutually beneficial.
Absolutely.
You ain't helping.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah, good point. I agree with that definitely. All right, into the cake, man. I don't think there's any suspense on this one, man. This is a 5 boxes of popcorn for
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
man.
yeah. I'm with you. We ain't nothing more to say. I'm with you.
Yep, no doubt. Great film. If you haven't seen it, go out there and check it out.
Better.
Yo, my hot take is not. It's probably not even hot because everybody probably sees this anyway. But yo, the black struggle story is the biggest thing going in the entertainment world today. We love it no matter how it gets switched up and remixed. We love to see black folks struggle and go through trauma and then maybe be all right. And whether that's pressures, whether that's love and hip hop, whether that's something else, as long as that's like the hero's journey, if you will, for the black actor, America eats that up, and unfortunately, in many ways, so do we as well. And I think like that's the thing. Like I think as black people, we have to also broaden our tastes out so that the same story can't be told over and over again
Mm,
with this characters just slightly changed, and we just keep consuming that because there's room for that, but there's so much more that we have to offer.
I hear that, bro. CJ's been rocking on all six, eight cylinders today, yo. I definitely co-sign that. And just to add a little 2 cents to it, there's whether it be IG right now with the whole thing where the dude is leaving his wife because she's eating the cherries from Usher,
Oh yeah,
all the way to, you know, the Chris Brown joint
that's
going
terrible,
overseas
dog. Oh,
and taking other dudes, women and stuff, or even on a more you know, just stupid level as far as like, oh, this is a new reason to have Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, no, excuse me, Ryan Gosling cast as the new Black Panther because in an alternate universe, Black
wait, is
Panther.
that real? Hold on, that's real?
Yeah, it's in like Marvel Presents. It's like a different alternative world, like a what if.
I
But
thought that was a joke. I thought this was scam messages. That's real?
no, it's real. It's in Marvel Comics, where you
Wow,
know,
I didn't
T'Challa
know that.
has, but it's a T'Challa not of 616. I forget if it's like 838 or
Wait, so
some.
T'Challa in another universe is a white guy?
No, he's black. He just has a white son.
All right, well that's not this show. That's go with your point.
My point being is, my point is,
What?
yeah, it stopped you dead in your tracks on that joint.
What?
But my point being is, like,
What?
broadening our horizons, understanding that certain things do give way. Still giving way to the possibility of other things in coming in and broadening your palate. Because, you know, I still to this day don't like spinach, but I wouldn't have known I didn't like spinach if my mother didn't introduce it to me, if my
If you
father
ain't
didn't
tried it.
insist on me trying it. So,
Yeah.
with respect to my hot take, I think it's a little bit lighter than CJ's, and I'm thinking, you know what? This American Fiction is the last of the trilogy in Bamboozled and Dear White People. So Dear
Okay.
White People dropped in 2014, Bamboozled in 2000. We covered that. I forget the episode, but
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, some people might say, "Well, Mr. Will, man, what are you talking about? Like, Damon Wayne's character dies in that movie." No, 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 not so fast. I think somehow, some way, they get him the medical attention that he needs. He gets healed up, gets a little bit older, and then
Mm-hmm.
a la you have Jeffrey Wright.
Okay.
He's still in the entertainment field, but he has to switch it up because he was getting so much ridicule, whatever. That's why when he
I
goes
got you.
into academia, he's no longer in
Okay.
front of the camera or
Okay.
anywhere in that sphere. So when he's going back into Hollywood, it's like I'm gonna play it off like I don't know anything, but yet there's still that
Okay.
rebel within him. But at the same token, Dear White People is about him being in college and going through the protests and being like, "Hey, man, this is whack. This is not what we're about. We don't do this, et cetera, et cetera." So yeah, I think like it's still the same universe. If
Yes.
it's not him directly, then it may be an ancestor or a cousin or some other
Yeah.
family member. But I think this is a shared universe where they're trying to retell the same story in order to hammer home the point, like, hey, there's enough room for everybody in here dealing with the same issue, which is authenticity, representation, identity.
There it
Yeah,
is.
there it
And in
is.
another universe, he's Adam Sandler. Like Ryan Gosling is the Black Panther. That messed me up. That messed me up. And
I seen it.
I'm about to go look that up as soon as we get done with this, man. All right. So anyway, so that completes our review of American Fiction because I gotta look at that. That completes our review of American Fiction. Once again, if it's not something that you've seen, go check it out.
Yeah,
Great
definitely.
film. Definitely should be added to your Juneteenth movie slate of films to check out and watch. Once again, the Sticky Floors podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify Podcasts. We are on YouTube. Please like and subscribe so you'll be here to be with us next week where we will be covering Triple Frontier
Can't wait for that.
on Netflix. So yeah, we getting back to the bang bang shoot 'em up for the people that like that before we do something else. So that yeah, we'll see you next week. Peace.